Good morning. Let us now continue with our trigonometric identities. Now, we have already seen that the values of sine and cos of various angles, that is pi by 2 minus x, pi by 2 plus x, 3 pi by 2 minus x, 3 pi by 2 plus x. Similarly, sine and cos of pi minus x, pi plus x, 2 pi minus x and 2 pi plus x. And we have seen the results as something like this, that is sine of pi by 2 minus x is cos x, whereas that of cos x is sine x. Similarly, for pi by 2 plus x, sine becomes cos, cos becomes minus sine. For 3 pi by 2 minus x, sine becomes minus cos, cos becomes minus sine. For 3 pi by 2 plus x, sine becomes minus cos, cos becomes plus sine. Now again, for the angle pi minus x, sine becomes sine, cos becomes minus cos. For pi plus x, sine becomes minus sine, cos becomes minus cos. Similarly, for 2 pi minus x, sine becomes minus sine, cos becomes cos, and for 2 pi plus x, sine becomes sine and cos becomes cos. Now, this is one way of doing it, that we substitute these angles in the four results, that is sine of x plus minus y and cos of x plus minus y. But it's a lengthy and tedious procedure, and for using these results while doing questions, it will simply not be possible to be deriving these results every time. So we need also, some of the results give us sine, some of them give us cos, some give us positive, some give us negative. So we have to find some procedure so that directly we can arrive at the result. So let's do an analysis of these results. Now, first of all, let's observe where these all angles belong. Okay, so for that, let's consider the xy plane. We know that about the x-axis, means on either side of the x-axis, the angles which we have are 2 pi plus x, which belongs to the first quadrant, 2 pi minus x, which belongs to the fourth quadrant. Similarly, pi minus x belongs to the second, pi plus x belongs to the third quadrant. Same way, we analyze the remaining four angles. Pi by 2, since the y-axis corresponds to theta equal to pi by 2, pi by 2 minus x lies in the first quadrant and pi by 2 plus x lies in the second quadrant. Same way, negative y-axis corresponds to 3 pi by 2, which is 270 degree. So 3 pi by 2 minus x belongs to the third quadrant, while pi by 2 plus x belongs to the fourth quadrant. Okay, so let's categorize these angles like this, that is 4 angles which lie about the x-axis and 4 angles which lie about the y-axis. And that's how I have written here also, that the sine and cos of all the angles which lie about the y-axis I have written on the left column, whereas sine and cos of all the angles which lie about the x-axis I have written on the right column. Now let's analyze their results. If you observe carefully, all the values of sine and cos of angles which lie on about the y-axis, they get converted to the opposite one, that is sine gets converted to cos, cos gets converted to sine, and that you can observe in each of these angles. That is, sine gives you cos, cos gives you sine. Whereas if you observe in the right column, where the angles are about the x-axis, we observe that sine remains sine, cos remains cos for all these angles. This is the first point which we have noticed. The second point which we notice is that some are giving you a negative result, some are giving you a positive result. So now let's observe, when do we get positive, when do we get negative. Now pi by 2 minus x belongs to the first quadrant, pi by 2 plus x belongs to the second quadrant, 3 pi by 2 minus x belongs to the third quadrant, and 3 pi by 2 plus x belongs to the fourth quadrant. We know that both sine and cos are positive in the first quadrant, and so both these results are positive. This angle is in the second quadrant, and we know that in the second quadrant sine is positive, so we get the result as positive, and cos is negative, so we get the result as negative. This angle belongs to the third quadrant, and both sine and cos are negative in the third quadrant, and that's why we get both these results. Sine and cos of this angle 3 pi by 2 minus x gives us negative result. Now this angle 3 pi by 2 plus x belongs to the fourth quadrant, where sine is negative and cos is positive, and so we get the result for sine as negative and the result for cos as positive. Okay. Now same way we see on the right column for angles about the x-axis, sine becomes sine, sine remains sine, cos remains cos for all these. Now pi minus x lies in the second quadrant, where sine is positive and cos is negative, and so we get the result for sine as positive, result for cos as negative. Pi plus x belongs to the third quadrant, where both sine and cos are negative, and that's why we get both the results as negative. In case of 2 pi minus x, which belongs to the fourth quadrant, we know that sine is negative and cos is positive, and hence both the for sine we are getting a negative result, for cos you are getting a positive result. And 2 pi plus x belongs to the first quadrant, and so where both are positive, and so you get both the results as positive. And with this we arrive at a very, very important result or analysis, that about the x-axis, that is when theta or the angle is equal to 2 pi plus minus x or pi plus minus x, sine remains sine and cos remains cos. Okay. Whereas this is when theta equal to 2 pi plus minus x and pi plus minus x, whereas when theta about the y-axis, that is when theta equal to pi by 2 plus minus x and 3 pi by 2 plus minus x, sine becomes cos and cos becomes sine. This is the first point which we notice, and the sine SIGN is decided by the quadrant to which the angle belongs. So this is the result which we have arrived at. Thank you.